What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants are 0-3. Last night's game was embarrassing, I think is a good way to put it. The home opener, to fall flat on your face like that certainly is embarrassing. 0-3 once again. The Giants to start this season have looked completely underprepared as usual with Brian Daboll and this regime. The Giants were outcoached, they were outclassed, and ultimately, their offense is completely broken. It's tough to watch their offense on a drive-to-drive basis. They don't know what they're doing in the red zone. They make good players completely non-existent in the game plan like Malik Neighbors, and defensively, they're not all that much better. They have their lapses frequently over there as well. This team is undisciplined. They had, again, 7 penalties and I think 80 yards of penalties on Sunday night's game. So they're undisciplined, they're unorganized, they're underprepared. They're just about every bad adjective that you could throw at them, and they are 0-3, and nothing's going to change that fact. So, the New York Giants now staring down the barrel of another lost season under Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. We're in for a long one, and the clock is ticking on the Russell Wilson era. When will Jackson Dart start is the big storyline in question coming out of this game. And I don't blame people for having that question because Russ didn't look great. The offense looks broken, like I said. And now I'm feeling like this is just another dangerously lost season that probably ends with a lot of firings and lost jobs. So, Alex, I'll waste no more time. Let's dive right into it, recap the game, and react. How are you doing today, my friend? How frustrated are you after last night's game? And, what is your main takeaway?
Man, I mean, the bleach in my cabinet is empty. That's what I had to drink last night after I watched that game. Horrible performance from the Giants. As you said, the offense is broken. Dallas, that was a mirage. Mike Kafka, the play calling, the preparation, and that's kind of been the MO for the past 3 years for this Giants team. Their ability to prepare, their ability to game plan, their ability to compete is compromised by their coaching in many, many ways. And there's talent on this roster, man. Like the Giants pass rush, there is a pass rush there. Brian Burns looked fantastic. Kayvon Thibodeau looked fantastic. Dexter Lawrence had 2 quarterback hits last night. Even Abdul Carter had a couple of solid moments. I just honestly don't know, where you look at this offense and you look at this team in general and say, I don't think they can put together a complete performance, especially kicker gets hurt pre-game. Graham Gano comes in and kicks a random field goal in the fourth quarter was it, from 20 yards out. Like, they can't score points. They're dead in the water. Their offense has zero rhythm. And good offenses have a sense of rhythm. You know what I mean? They can establish the run. It opens up the play action. The Giants ran the ball well. Cam Scottaboo had 6 yards per carry yesterday, 60 yards on 10 rushes. He averaged more yards per carry than Russell Wilson averaged per passing attempt, which is an astounding statistic, right? The offensive line was not horrible, right? They did enough for that Giants offense to actually compete. But the play calling was horrific. Russell Wilson was they were just tasked him with, hey, if you see a guy down there, just throw it up. The Kansas City Chiefs were waiting on it. They were praying that he was going to do that. And they were they were lying in wait for it. And ultimately, we saw the results of that. Multiple interceptions, a dropped third interception. There was no competitive spirit. Russell completely outmatched, completely demoralized. He looked like he didn't have that burning competitive spirit in his eyes like he did against Dallas when it was all working and the momentum was good. They had zero rhythm, zero game plan. They went away from the things that were working, Anthony. And that's where I kind of want to start with this is the Giants had things that were working on offense. The ground game, they had a couple of nice screens. They didn't manufacture reps to some of their best playmakers. They did the opposite of that. They went in the opposite direction. They abandoned the stuff that was working a lot of the time. And that is really, really weird and really a testament to the poor coaching. Look, we can blame Russ, and I do blame him for certain things, and I do blame the offensive line for certain things, but that game was a coaching disaster class. First and foremost, and if I'm John Mara, I'm sitting up in that booth, and I'm looking over at Joe Schoen, I'm saying to myself, this is the coaching staff you put together? These are the guys calling plays? These are the guys making decisions on the field for us right now? This is an organizational failure, but again, I have to blame John Mara too. It stinks from the head down, man. Like everyone's to blame here. It's an organizational mess from top to bottom right now.
You're 100% right. It is. And when we were entering this last offseason, Alex, coming out of what was, in my opinion, the worst season in New York Giants history, definitely in the history that I've been watching, 3-14, 10-game losing streak in the 100th anniversary season of the franchise, they walked out of that season and decided to run it back. They basically went with the same roster plus a couple of upgrades. They went with the exact same coaching staff minus Jerome Henderson, who they fired, and of course they kept the front office intact. They basically ran it back after the worst season in history. They made a slight change here, slight change there, and said, good enough, let's go ahead and try again. And it never really made sense to me. And I advocated pretty hard going into that offseason, Alex, to clean house. But if you remember, I didn't just say fire the coaches. I didn't just say fire the front office. I said clean everything out. Get all of the people who have been in the organization for the last 20 to 15 to 30 years. There are guys in this organization who've been working here who are only working there because they're friends with ownership. And I feel like when you see this franchise year in and year out make the exact same mistakes, it always looks the same. We have a guy step in. The offense, it breaks. Jason Garrett. And then we bring in this new offensive guru, Mike Kafka, Brian Dable. Name your pick. It's always the exact same result. There's no difference between the Brian Dable era and the Joe Judge era. There's no difference between the Joe Judge era and the Ben McAdoo era. It's been a long-running, constant issue within this organization, whether it's Joe Shane or the end of Jerry Reese's tenure. There is a problem that exists inside of that building that doesn't just stem from Joe Shane's regime. It stems from higher up. It stems from the Mara family, in my opinion. And I don't see how we can go through another season like the one we're in right now, which is so reminiscent of the season that we just went through last year, the year prior, the one in 2020, the one in 2021. How many times do we have to do the exact same thing over and over and over again before the New York Giants realize they need to make serious, significant changes to the way they operate? And that's what it comes down to, is poor operation in every single facet of this organization. So I think if you're looking for somebody to point fingers to and blame, a lot of people are going to point to Brian Dable. I don't blame you. A lot of people are going to point to Joe Shane. I don't blame you. But we all collectively need to start pointing to John Mara and demanding that he make serious changes to the organization's hierarchy and structure. When I said they should clean house going into this offseason, again, it wasn't just about firing the coaches and the GM. It was about getting everyone who's had anything to do with the stink of this organization over the last decade out of the building. All of the underqualified people who work in these executive positions in this organization that only have those positions because they're friends with people in the organization. That's what it comes down to for me. So you mentioned it stinks from the head down. You're right. I'm disgusted by the organization, the direction that it's gone in over the last few years. It always seems to get worse. We bring in new personnel. We bring in new coaches. We bring in new front office members. It never changes, and there has to be a reason for that. And until John Mara actually does some internal searching here and actually looks at himself in the mirror and decides maybe I am the problem, the New York Giants are not a problem that can be fixed. So it starts and ends with John Mara, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, listen, people say the Giants are a world-class organization. Why? Because they serve you Wagyu beef in the cafeteria? I don't really give a crap about that. I want to see wins on the football field. Did you see how many Chiefs fans were at that home opener last night? It was a sea of red. 40% of the fans were Chiefs fans from Kansas City. Like, that's where we are as an organization right now. Half the fans on our opener are not even our own freaking fans. Nobody stood up for third downs. Nobody's cheering. Nobody has any faith. It's just season ticket holders showing up because they have to, because they paid for it. You know what I mean? If you bought tickets to go to that game, you set yourself up for failure. You know what I mean? Like, I told you last year, I'm not spending $1 on this team. Not $1 on this team until they give me a reason to. Buying tickets to that garbage product? Absolutely not. Jerseys? Absolutely not. Merchandise? No freaking way. Unless they're giving that stuff away. Unless I get my free Pepsi, I don't want it. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at right now, is like, I don't even think I could watch this team if Russell Wilson plays another game, because they're dead in the water. Like, they have to start Jackson Dart. And I think that Brian Dable and Joe Shane, and listen, we can blame Russ for this or that or not at all. But the truth of the matter is, Joe Shane and Brian Dable's seats are scorching hot. This is not this is warming up. They are sitting on fire right now. They're on the griddle. This is a really bad situation for them to be in, because they have no choice. They have one card left to play, Anthony. They have one card left to play. And that play is Jackson Dart. He has to save their jobs now. He's the only thing standing between the entire front office being gutted mid-season and them surviving until the end of the season and John Mara having to make a difficult decision, right? I don't see how they go another week. I know the Chargers defense is really good. I know it's going to be really difficult for him. I know he's probably going to get his ass kicked. But they have no more time to waste. They can't afford to wait another game. It's now or never for them. They could get fired by week 5 if they don't pull the trigger now.
And that's the exact argument that I was making a couple weeks ago when we had our heated debate about the topic. There's never going to be a perfect time to put Jackson Dart in the lineup. Whether you want to wait for Andrew Thomas to be able to play, whether you want to wait until you're going up against the Saints, or you want to wait, there's never a perfect time, especially when many of the problems that Jackson Dart is going to face are internal. Most of the issues that he's going to have to deal with on an NFL Sunday are related to the New York Giants themselves. The Giants being a bad football team. I don't care how good the Chargers are. I don't care, if Andrew Thomas is an upgrade over James Hudson and Marcus Bowe. It doesn't matter, because one way or another, the New York Giants are going to find a way to make it more difficult for him than it needs to be. There's just never going to be a perfect time. And now you're looking at this 0-3 season. Everything is lost. They're going to do this move to put the rookie in order to save their jobs, but it's now too late to save the season, which is why I argued if you were going to throw him in, it should have been in week 3, where the season was still alive, where a 1-2 record isn't so bad, but a 1-3 record is. A 1-3 record, even if they pull off an upset win against the Chargers next week, their season is still in the tank. You can't come back from 0-3. I think how many teams have made it from 0-3 to the playoffs in the last 20 years?
No way.
Especially with our schedule. Our schedule is the toughest in the NFL. I mean, listen, there was never going to be a perfect time, which is, again, why I said, if you're going to wait for the perfect time, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. And that's exactly what the New York Giants have done by starting the season 0-3. And now they're going to force the rookie to go out there and try and win games to save jobs. It's the worst situation for a quarterback to be in. I feel bad for Jackson Dart whenever he does take over the starter, because it's not going to be pretty and it's not going to be fair to him at all.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is they're probably still 0-3 even if Dart is playing. So I think this season is probably already on thin ice in terms of them keeping their jobs regardless. But at this point, if they feel like he's ready, he has to play. Andrew Thomas returning. I mean, he looked really good yesterday. He had 100% pass rush win rate. So did Jermaine Illuminor, which is definitely good for the tackles. Like, the offensive line was not the reason they lost this game. Usually we're like, oh, like, bing, bing, like the offensive line sucks again. Like, that's why they're not moving the football. They ran the ball well. There was opportunities to throw the ball. There was opportunities to make things happen with the pocket. Russell Wilson's eyes dropped way too fast. He bailed out of the pocket on several occasions way too fast. But that's also because the route concepts are so freaking lame. I watched a play, Anthony, and I posted it on Twitter. Was it a second down or a third down? They rushed up to the line of scrimmage and they ran hooks to the front of the end zone. Every single receiver on the Giants stopped at the goal line, right? They have 10 yards of space behind them. We didn't have a deep post. We didn't have anything, a corner out to the back of the end zone. We had nothing. No creativity. Not a single ounce of it. I think this offense is going to look quite different when Jackson Dart does take over, at least from the small sample of plays that we've seen. Lots of RPOs, lots of different things they're going to try to do. The offense that they're running for Russell Wilson right now seems to be quite different than the one they want to run with Dart. So I think we're going to see a much different system. But it's so predictable, Anthony. They bring in Dart for this one play, these 2 plays, and it's a running play every time. They don't let him throw the ball. What is your perspective on that? I don't really get the point of it, because they bring him in, they do this like kind of RPO mesh concept, and they just don't throw it. They just have him either handing it off or going off on his own as a runner, and he's taking big hits. It's like the most backward concept I can think of. I don't really get what they're trying to accomplish with that.
Well, they're not RPOs, they're zone reads. Zone reads are designed runs. He doesn't even have the option to throw the ball.
Which is even worse.
It is worse. He should have the option to throw the ball. They should be running RPOs when he's in, but they're running zone reads. And I actually do think, to their credit, when the running game looks the best, it's when they're running those zone reads with Jackson Dart on the field. Jackson Dart's presence on the field does force the linebackers to shift with him in a way that they just don't have to with Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson isn't athletic enough. And I do think that Cam Scatterbo, when he took those handoffs from Jackson Dart, he found rushing lanes, he found space, and that's because Jackson Dart was in the game. So I like that, and I think, honestly, I'll twist it into an argument for putting Jackson Dart in the lineup next week. Your running game will be better. Your passing game might be better at times, might be worse at times. Who knows? We'll see. He's a rookie quarterback, but we do know that the running game will be better for the New York Giants with Jackson Dart in the lineup. We've seen as much, just because when he is on the field, the linebacker holding the middle read has to hold on to Jackson Dart in a way that they don't with Russell Wilson. So I actually like those designed runs that they do with Jackson Dart on the field. I wish that they would give him the option to throw, but those have been some of the most effective plays that the New York Giants have run over the last 2 weeks. They should be running them more. And the most mind-boggling moment of the game yesterday for me was when they had Jackson Dart out in the game for two plays in a row. They ran those zone reads for those 2 plays in a row effectively, and then subbed him off, put Russell Wilson on, ran the same zone read, and of course, were tackled for a loss. So it was so stupid. That play calling execution, that sequence right there made 0 sense to me. And I think, though, it did highlight there is a clear and obvious difference when Russell Wilson is running those zone reads versus when Jackson Dart is running those zone reads. So I think that's going to be a big staple in the New York Giants offense when Jackson Dart is the starter. And again, I think he's going to be starting sooner rather than later because the Giants are going to see, hey, our running game can be even more effective if we have Jackson Dart on the field.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying, why only do it for 1 or 2 plays when it's working? It's like you should be expanding that offense. There was many opportunities for him to get on the field, even if it was 3 or 4 plays. Let him throw the ball, let him do something in the red zone they couldn't score, let him try to make a play happen. Instead, they just kept trotting Russ out there, and he just couldn't find anything to get going there.
It's because they're afraid of making a quarterback controversy. The
Right.
whole New York Giants...
There already is.
Yeah, there already is. The New York Giants, over the last couple of years, what's really struck me about their deterioration is the fact that they don't play to win games anymore. They play scared and they play not to lose, and that's why they continue to lose. But that's been their MO. They play ultra conservative. They're like, we can't turn the ball over. We can't throw the ball deep because then we might turn the ball over and we can't get a stop. Everything they do is fear-based. They do it because they're scared of something. They're scared to lose. They're scared to fall behind. They're scared to turn the ball over. And you watch all the best teams in the league, Alex. How about the Bills? You see Josh Allen, does he ever look afraid of anything? Or is he diving headfirst through contact to score touchdowns? Is he firing into triple coverage windows and scoring touchdowns? Is he throwing interceptions in the process? Is he turning the ball over here and there? Sure, he is, but he's not afraid to do those things, and that's why he's successful when he attempts to do those things. And that's the thing with the New York Giants. They don't do any of those things. They don't have those concepts and those grandiose moments and highlights because they're afraid of making mistakes. They're afraid of quarterback controversies. They're afraid of harsh questions from the media rattling the backup quarterbacks. Get over yourselves. It's what you get paid to do, and you can't do what you do if you're too afraid to do it. That's really what it boils down to for me, and that's what it's been for years with the New York Giants. So it's been embarrassing. It was even more embarrassing last night because when I have to watch Russell Wilson trot up to the 5-yard line and run 4 5-yard outs to the goal line, that's when you want to point fingers that say, this guy sucks, that guy sucks. It all sucks because that's part play calling, that's part quarterbacking. There were so many things that went wrong on that sequence in the red zone from the 5-yard line. I mean, Alex, quarterback draw with 36-year-old Russell Wilson on 2nd down from the 15-yard line? What are we doing?
Dude, not only that, but he threw the ball out of bounds on 3 straight plays in the red zone. Just sailed it into the end zone. Like, it's 4th down. At least try to give your receiver an opportunity. I don't even care if it's picked off at that point. The game's over.
I agree with you. That was stupid. Throwing the ball away, especially all 3 downs, but especially on 4th down. But there was nobody open on a single one of those downs. The route concepts are so bland. They don't know how to scheme a single player open. And that's why you have these moments where Russell Wilson is just standing in the pocket, nobody open, so he just chucks it deep and hopes that something happens.
Yes.
I almost can't blame him because there's nobody breaking open. They don't even allow Malik Neighbors to run a real route tree. Malik Neighbors is one of the most explosive, agility, and route running players in the NFL right now. He moves differently. And the Giants have him running go, post, corner, and that's it. Just
He's a Darius
everything
Slayton.
on the boundary.
He has the Darius Slayton route tree.
Right. He's been given the Darius Slayton route tree. And you know what? Malik Neighbors, he can run a mean slant route. He can run a backside dig. He can run a full route tree, and the Giants just won't let him. And we wonder why he has 2 receptions in a game, 0 receptions in the first half. He's not even running real routes. Of course he's not getting the football. And it's not just a Russell Wilson problem, though, but that's a problem with the whole entire team. That's a head coaching problem. That's an offensive coordinator problem. That is a quarterback problem. And I don't know, Alex, realistically, I am saying that the Giants Giants should just turn the page, throw Jackson Dart in. I don't know if any of these things actually get fixed with Jackson Dart in the lineup, though. They might see some increased production from their running game thanks to the zone read, but generally speaking, I think this play calling is so bad, no matter what quarterback was out there, he was still going to get his ass kicked. And I think that's true for Jackson Dart, like it is true for Russell Wilson, like it would be true for Jameis Winston. The play calling is an issue, the quarterback is an issue, but really just generally speaking, the whole offense is a ginormous issue for the Giants.
It is. The whole offense is a ginormous issue. I mean, the fact that they couldn't even get Wandale more than one reception, that one catch he had over the middle of the seams was unbelievable. The fact to just give him opportunities, give Neighbors opportunities. Slayton had more yards than both those guys. I think he had 30 yards on 2 receptions. Like it's really sad because there is talent. I keep saying it, man. There's talent on this team, man. Neighbors is one of the best receivers in football. Wandale's one of the most underrated slot receivers in football. I mean, Slayton is not crazy. He's not that good, but he can do the stuff downfield that you want him to. And, nobody really is paying attention to him. He should have more opportunities because of that. I don't know what happened. Slayton made a living on the dig route. Haven't seen him run one of those in literally 3 years now. So it's like we take players' strengths and we bury them. We completely destroy them. On the defensive side, Burns and Kayvon and Dexter and Carter and, let's talk about the secondary, though. Paulson Adebo looked horrific yesterday. Horrific. Missed multiple tackles, was beaten up in coverage. Drew Phillips had the most, volatile game. On one moment, I was like, wow, this guy's going to be an all-pro. And the next moment, he gave up 3 penalties for, 70 yards. But again, that one downfield, he gave that big reception to Tyquan Thornton as well. But, the coverage was great. It was just just a great throw and a great catch. And he had that penalty in the middle of the field where Carter should have knocked Mahomes out of bounds or at least kept upright. Instead, he dove at his ankles. Mahomes slips out of it and then makes a 50-yard throw downfield. That draws a penalty on 3rd and long. So, Drew Phillips had his moments, but, I think that he's a good player, just had a couple of bad situations. And then Deonte Banks actually looked probably the best of the bunch, which is kind of funny. He made a couple of plays yesterday that I was like, all right, solid reps from Deonte Banks. Cordell Flott didn't really get picked on at all. I think he had a pretty decent game. Okereke missed a couple tackles. He was up and down. Swayze Bozeman, whatever. Newman had a couple of decent plays, had a couple nice, pass defended against Travis Kelce. And Javon Hall, I didn't hear his name pop up very much. I don't know if he did too much. I'd have to look it back. But, what is your reaction on the secondary, guys that maybe underperform? I think Paulson Adebo was a bit of a liability yesterday.
The secondary stinks, man. They are just terrible. I don't even know what to say. I think when you've got the receiving core of Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, and Juju Smith-Schuster, and Noah Gray making you look like that?
Killed Adebo.
I think all of those guys that I just mentioned routed up Paulson Adebo at one point or another. Shout out Paulson Adebo.
Gray,
I think that he's a good player throughout his career in New Orleans. He looked like a good cornerback. Now he's here with the New York Giants, and he stinks all of a sudden. What does that tell you about the New York Giants? How many times have we said that before?
Noah Gray hit this man with a zig route and literally created 2 yards of separation. This is a tight end. Our corners, our CB1 is so bad, bro. You
know what really frustrated me about the specific play that you're talking about? The Chiefs ran that play on 3rd and short every single time they faced that situation. Every time they were in a 3rd and short, they ran tight end on the choice route. And somehow, some way, the New York Giants were unable to pick up on that. And they were unable to defend that one singular route that the Chiefs just kept spamming. It was unreal to me. How can you make the same mistake over and over and over again? And I'll say this, though. A lot of Giants fans are like, oh, Shane Bowen, he just sits down in this zone coverage defense all the time. Most of the big plays that the Giants let up were in man coverage. They can't cover. Their man coverage sucks. They run man coverage a lot more than Giants fans realize. They run it at the 10th highest rate in the NFL. That's right. Top 10 among all teams in the NFL in running man coverage. They run it over 60% of the time. Giants fans have this crazy narrative that they just sit down in zone coverage all game. They don't. They run a lot of man coverage, and their man coverage sucks just as badly as their zone coverage. And that play that we're talking about where Noah Gray just routed up Paulson Adebo, that came in man coverage. The Giants cannot cover. There's nobody in that secondary that I trust on a down-to-down basis who can actually cover. And that was a bad Kansas City Chiefs offense, missing their top 2 playmakers, number 1 being Rashee Rice and number 2 being Xavier Worthy. And the Giants couldn't cover a bunch of backup wide receivers in this game. It was an embarrassing outing. So We could talk about how good the pass rush looks at times. I think Brian Burns is awesome, man. He's got 4 sacks in 3 games. He's tied for the second most in the NFL. Kayvon Thibodeau has looked good. Abdul Carter, not necessarily looking great, but he's had some decent moments. Definitely having some rookie growing pains. But everything behind that front four, the whole secondary just doesn't seem to know what it's doing. It seems completely lost. I don't know if it's a communication thing. I don't know if it's a schematics thing. I don't know if it's a lack of talent or if it's everything. And that's probably what it is. But the whole thing is not good enough. And we can point blame here, point blame there, but just generally, everybody on this team is underperforming at every level of this defense, every level of this offense. And the Giants invested $100 million into the secondary this offseason for this end product. That tells you a lot about the front office as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they're investing millions of dollars in coaching, and they brought in multiple different new coaches to try and revitalize the group, whether it be the DBs, whether it be the offensive line. It's just a complete disaster. And RB coaches have been coming and going over the last couple of years. And, the garbage truck is outside my house right now, and I feel like they might be coming to pick up my Giants gear. Really unfortunate. So, listen, how do we get out of this? And I feel like this question is usually asked around week 10, and now we're here in week 4. And we're asking, how do we bail ourselves out of a ocean? This is not a kiddie pool. We're in an ocean right now, and we have a little spoon trying to dig our way out. We know one thing's for certain, Anthony. They have no choice but to turn to Dart. It's their last card to play. If they lose to the Chargers, and they're going to lose to the Chargers, whether Dart plays or not, but if they look competitive and the offense has a semblance of life, the fans will buy back in. And then we go to the Saints, and he beats up on the Saints, a bunch of backup players at this point. There'll be some more life. They have an opportunity to be competitive next week, beat the Saints. Then you have to play the Eagles twice in 3 weeks. Like, you need Dart's their last card to play. He has to play. But the coaching limits the efficiency of this group, right? You said it a bunch. And the defense and their secondary is vanilla. Their pass rush schematics are vanilla. Their linebackers don't do much. The tackling is poor. The technique is poor. The fundamentals are poor at times. The pass rush can't collect sacks. Like, they should have sacked Mahomes at least 3 or 4 other times, and he was able to escape. I mean, that's what he does. But you wrap up a player, you have to take him down. On the offensive side, they abandoned what was working. They stopped running the ball. I mean, Scott had 10 rushes yesterday. He should have had more like 15, because it was working that well. It should have been much more frequent. I would have liked to see Dart a little bit more because, like you said, those plays were working. One rep here, 2 reps here, and then they try to run the same thing with Russell Wilson. It's not working the same. There's no continuity, no consistency. They're just the thing about the Giants is it's just everything they do feels random. You know what I mean? Everything they do just feels unprepared. No, there's no real game plan. It's just randomness. Let's just throw Dart in there right now. Let's test him. It's second down, and then we're down by 2 scores. You just throw Dart in there, see what happens. It's like, what? Why? Like, it's just randomness of this team. The plan for developing Dart, the plan for everything they've been trying to do just feels so confusing and so off. Whoever they end up bringing in next year as GM, as head coach, whatever, that whole process is going to be a long one. And John Mara, by the way, Anthony, cannot be involved. I know he will be, but they need to hire a third party to make objective decisions for this organization, because there is no world where John Mara needs to be given the reins to making this decision again, because he can't do it. He does not know what success looks like. And this nepotism that's been happening in the organization, as you mentioned, for many years now, in high positions, like there's nothing there. Like, it's just dead. They're just paying people. They're just paying people for no results. In fact, to make them the laughingstock of the NFL, the New York Football Giants, laughingstock of the NFL. The analyst Brian Balder yesterday, what was that, Giants? What the hell was that? They got Brandon Jacobs out there pregame trying to hype up the crowd to do that. Nobody wants to be associated with this team right now. Nobody wants to be the guy trying to hype things up. They had Antonio Pierce at the game yesterday. They had OBJ at the game yesterday. They had to watch that. They had to sit there and watch that happen. If you're the Giants and you're thinking about the future right now, Joe Shane knows he's cooked. You saw the picture, Anthony. You posted it of Brian Dable in the middle, Joe Shane and John Mara sitting next to each other. You saw John Mara's face. That's a guy that knows it's over. He said, "I need to see results at the end of last season. I need to see results." Well, there's no results. They're bad. When they clean house again, it's got to be a full, like you said, full cleaning of the house. This cannot be GM and head coach go. This has got to be the coaching staff. This got to be some of the executives, some of the scouts. Like, this has to be a organizational shift, and they need to bring in the right GM, the right head coach, and everything else needs to fall into place after that. Why Joe Schoen is his label is GM and senior vice president of the Giants. Senior vice president. What exactly has he done to earn that moniker? Senior vice president. He's only been in the league. He's never been a GM. He's a first-year GM. He was an assistant with the Bills. Why does he have so much power? You know what I mean? Like, they just don't have a hierarchy that makes any sense here. I don't wish ill will against these guys. Brian Dable's been beaten to a pulp. You know what I mean? The version of Dable that we saw in year one, it's not the same head coach that we had. This is a totally different guy. This is a guy that's been destroyed. You know what I mean? Every ounce of quality he had is gone. And I'll ask you this, Anthony. If they do turn over the whole front office, and I think they will, what kind of head coach are you looking for? Are you looking for someone with more discipline? Somebody that comes from an offensive mind? Like, at first thought, like, what is the main problem this team needs to fix? I think disciplinary, their lack of consequences for bad performance. They're just letting everyone get away with whatever they want to get away with. I think that has to change.
It is September 22nd, and you are asking me who I want to be the next head coach.
Not who specifically, but their strengths.
I know, but you are asking me what I want to see in the next head coach on September 22nd.
Everyone's asking.
That is
a new one. That's a new record for us, I think.
That's a new record for us. That summarizes everything. What I want to see is a coach with discipline, and that doesn't mean I want Bill Belichick or some old fart. I don't know what I want. I don't know. I'm out of answers. I think that the Giants have tried a lot of different things, and they seem to get it wrong every single time. So I just don't even trust that. Even if they hire the guy that I want, Alex, even if they go ahead and get the strategist or the motivator or the developer or whatever archetype of coach that you want to throw out there, let's say that's the one I want and the Giants get it, I can't even trust that it's the right decision. I can't trust that they're going to do the right thing with it because they've messed up just about every decision that they've made since the Eli Manning era closed. And honestly, since the Tom Coughlin era closed in 2015, that's really when this Giants team lost its way. It's been a full decade of losing and confusion and an inability to properly steer the ship. So I don't know the answer for you. Honestly, I don't. I haven't thought enough about what I want to see in the next head coach. I think I'll think about that more later in the year as we take a look at potential candidates. I think that off the top of my head, somebody from the staff of the Vikings or the Packers or, one of these teams that just has a lot of talent in the coaching ranks, I would like to see somebody from one of those staffs. I think that would be really great. But I don't really know. I really don't know where to go from here for the New York Giants. It's already been a long season, and we're only in week 3. And Brian Dable, what a disappointment he's been so far. Shane Bowen, the Giants didn't even want him. Giants fans certainly never wanted him, but he's who we have as the defensive coordinator. And I think now what the Giants need to do moving forward is just start looking ahead to next season and not necessarily saying we're going to have conversations about who to hire as the coach, but looking ahead as in getting these young guys more reps. Like, I don't think Abdul Carter is playing enough. Jackson Dart hasn't started playing yet. Cam Scadaboo is now the RB1. Good. Keep it that way. Let him get as much experience as possible. Get Marcus Bowe on the field one way or another. I don't care how, but get him out there. Get these young guys as many reps as you can and start to look ahead, because we're already at that point in the third week of the season, and now 0-3, where we have to start looking ahead and getting a good evaluation on the young guys on this roster. So it's tough. It's really unfortunate, Alex. I've kind of exhausted all that I had to say about this terrible team and their terrible performance last night. I don't even want to look ahead yet to week 4 versus the Chargers, because I know this Chargers team is going to have its way with the New York Giants. I mean, the Chargers looked so good yesterday. They look so good every week. They're one of the best teams in football right now. The New York Giants, if you thought last night's game was ugly,
you're gonna break
next
us.
Week's game is probably going to get, it's going to be the one that just sends this whole thing to,
Yeah, I know. And Brian Burns said yesterday, we have fight. This is different than other years. I'm like, dude, you have fight. Like, no, this team is not different. You have fight, sure. Kayvon has fight. Nobody else has fight on this team. And honestly, the Chargers are going to break us, man. They're not going to break us. the locker room is going to be lost. Like, they're going to have to fire Dable because the whole team starts to publicly outrage. At what point does the whole team just start to go crazy? That's why Dart has to play, because they need anything to energize them. Anything. He's the last catalyst. He's the last hope they have.
No, I agree. I think the locker room is really close to being lost, especially when you have a performance where Malik Neighbors had 1 target in the first half and 0 receptions.
And Pierce and OBJ are constantly to happen after the game.
Yep. Yeah. Neighbors is one of the top leaders on this team. He's vocal in that locker room, whether people believe it or not. He is definitely somebody that the majority of this team looks to for guidance, whether he wears the captain's patch like that bum Darius Slayton or not. Neighbors is a leader on this team. When he has games like that, completely out of his control, he has 2 receptions for 13 yards. It's not going to take long for this locker room to turn. Yeah, and I think, again, you're right. The locker room is going to break soon, and I had something else to say, and it's totally slipping my mind. I'm apathetic at this point, though, Alex. Like, I'm getting to the point where this happens to us every year.
Numb.
You know, like, I'm numb to it. Like, I want to be more outraged, but I can't be. You know, I want to be more passionate and upset about this, but this was the expectation. That's
the thing.
It's sad.
Like I said, I have to see it to believe it. You know, we were excited, we were hopeful, we were even optimistic this offseason, but I said, and we both said many times, we have to see it before we truly buy in. Well, we're here, and we haven't seen it, and we haven't fully bought in, because that's the Giants' way, is they sell you a bill of goods, and it comes with nothing, man. The delivery gets there, and it's just a box. It's empty. You know, that's a really big problem for the PR of this team. They're losing the fan base. You know what I mean? That's the big problem here. It was their home opener, and 40% of the fans were not Giants fans. How quickly does it take John Mara to show up at his home stadium, sit in his box, look down at that field, and see nobody in the stands? Right? How many times are we? How soon is it before we see season ticket holders start to abandon their season tickets in droves, right? People are giving up on this team. Fans are giving up on this team. They'll show up when the team is better. You know, people will come back when the team is better. But in the near term, Mara, he's looking at a product that is now going to be, I mean, he's always going to be making money. So, I mean, from a financial perspective, he doesn't give a shit. Like, that's the truth. That's the honest truth. He doesn't care from a financial perspective. He has more money than God. And, you know, you look at pride, though, looks over at, you know, the Eagles, or, you know, even Washington with Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he's injured, but they won last week with Marcus Mariota at the helm. They blew out the Raiders with their backup in, right? Well-coached teams, you know, a product that people want to see. Your home debut of the season, and nobody's there. You know, none of your fans are there. If you're John Mara, like you're on thin ice. I mean, it's just. As a fan, I'm done. I'm so tired of this. I don't know how people spend money on this team. And when he looks down and it's week 7 and nobody is there, that's when he'll clean house. That is what he will look down, and nobody will be in the stands, and it'll be week 7. It won't even be the midseason point yet. His locker room will be lost, and that's when he'll make the sweeping changes. The only card left they have is Dart to save their life. That is it. It's the last straw. It's it. That is it. It's the only thing.
And it's so unfair to ask Jackson Dart to do that.
Absolutely
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
I feel so bad.
That's how you destroy a quarterback.
It is exactly how you destroy a quarterback. I think he's super talented. I think he's got moxie. I think he's got the personality. I really do think Jackson Dart can be good. I don't think he's going to be good with the New York Giants if they throw him into this fire and into this mess. And inevitably they have to. They're going to throw him into this mess because they don't have any other choice.
If he survives, we know that we got something special. You know, that's the only thing I can say, but it's so unlikely based on what.
Alex, we're looking at a team that's barreling towards a probably 3-win max season.
Top 5
They're going to be ticking top. They're going to be picking top 5, and Jackson Dart, even if he shows flashes, a new regime is going to come in, and they might not be sold on him, and they might move on. It's just an unfair situation for Jackson Dart. I feel really, really bad for him. I hope that it doesn't go that way, but the probability of it going that way is rather high. And you know, you mentioned that Brian Burns said things are different. They have more fight. And you said that you don't really agree. I do agree with Brian Burns. I think this is a different team. I think that there is a lot more talent on this roster than what shows up on Sundays. I think Scadaboo's talented.
Yeah.
I think Russell Wilson, what we saw last week versus Dallas, somewhere between this week and last week is the average Russell Wilson performance that the Giants can't seem to unlock. He's not nearly as bad as he's looked in week 1 and week 3. He proved as much last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had some very impressive performances. At the very least, he could manage the games and help lead the team to win, but now he can't even find an open guy 5 yards downfield. Doesn't make sense to me, and I don't believe that that's accurate reading of his talent. I think it's a coaching issue. I think you look at guys like Abdul Carter. Why can't Abdul Carter make an impact immediately? We all thought that he would. I still feel like he could, but I feel like this coaching staff doesn't know how to utilize him. So I actually do think this team is different. I just think this coaching staff is so bad and so underprepared every single week, and also so afraid to make changes. I think that they should have moved on from Kafka when they took the play calling duties away from him 2 years ago, but they were afraid about losing both Wink Martindale and Kafka in the same offseason. They should have moved on from Shane Bowen last offseason, this past one that we just had, but they were too afraid to move on from defensive coordinator 2 years removed from the other defensive coordinator quitting on your head coach. They were so afraid to make those changes because of the optics, but now how bad could it have looked then compared to how terrible it looks right now? Optically, it doesn't get any worse than this. So an embarrassing display from the New York Giants. And again, I agree with Brian Burns to an extent. I don't think this roster is nearly talented enough. I don't think the Giants did enough to improve the roster this offseason, that's for sure. But they're definitely better than their record suggests, and they're better than they look on Sundays because this coaching staff has gone out of its way, in my opinion, to harm the talent on this roster and hold it back from being successful. And I think the best evidence of that you could see elsewhere. How about Julian Love as a Pro Bowler for the Seattle Seahawks? Leonard Williams got exponentially better when he went to the Seahawks. Saquon Barkley, one of the most valuable players in football today, won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. And don't even get me to the point where I have to get started on what's going on in Indianapolis. I don't even want to go there today because I'll lose my mind if we have to start talking about Daniel Jones. So it's the best evidence, though. It's the best evidence of the fact that the Giants coaching staff stinks and is holding back the talent on this roster. So if you're sitting here and you're saying to yourself as a Giants fan, I like this kid. I think that guy's great. I think Russell Wilson's not washed. I think this is a talented roster. You are probably right about all of those takes that you have about the individual players on this roster, but you are never going to see those players reach their potential with this coaching staff. The Giants need to move on.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up saying this, Anthony. The Giants have the ability, and NFL teams have the ability to interview coaches that, are on expiring contracts before the divisional round of the playoffs, but coaches that are in contractual, I guess, terms for a couple years. The Giants can only, and teams that are looking for new coaching staffs can only interview them after the divisional round of the playoffs, so in January. The Giants need to fire Dable and the whole coaching staff, really, or at least Dable, because they need to get a head start on interviewing these guys. They need to be in the playoffs. They need to be interviewing these guys in the playoffs. The majority of coaches that we're going to be interviewing realistically are going to be on playoff teams, right? So after the divisional round, or if they've been knocked out of the postseason already, then we can start interviewing them. And the Giants need to have a head start. They have to. Because if they don't have a head start, they're going to lose those races. You know what I mean? We've seen them do it all the time. How about, when they were trying to find a new DC after Wink Martindale, they lost out on all their top guys. All of them. There were 4 or 5 DCs that were hired, and they got the last one. The Giants have to be proactive in turning things over and interviewing coaches because they need every freaking second they can get. They have to prepare for the reality that that's going to happen. And listen, Brian Dable being fired is not going to change what happens on the field. They're still going to look bad, right? But like you said, it's just an opportunity to see somebody else in a role, opportunity to see a different play caller, maybe, like whatever that might look like. The Giants need to get a head start in all of those valuations, no matter what happens here, because the future is what's most important. And we also, Dart, by the way, he's auditioning for the next regime. Not this one, but the next one. So him looking competitive, him taking steps forward, him looking good, that is so important for the next regime that takes over to say, okay, we know we have our quarterback. We know that we like this kid. There's talent on this roster. We have our first round pick next year. We have a lot of money in the future. This is going to be a really attractive destination for another coach and GM, in my opinion, especially because they're going to have the ability to turn things over. That's why you can't keep Joe Schoen and Brian Dable, though. If you're a head coach coming into what Joe Schoen has built, you're probably sitting here like, hell no. hell no. This guy does not give me what I need. There needs to be synergy between the head coach and the GM. The Giants have to make sure that there are fresh faces there. I know we're talking about this in week 3 or week 4 now, but that's where we are as an organization. They're going to clean house. It's just a matter of when, and they got to do it earlier than later, sooner than later. I'd say probably midseason is looking accurate right about now, but because they need to get a head start on evaluating what's out there. Like you said, the coaching staff is so bad. They can't maximize any talent. There is talent on this roster. It just doesn't look like it. It's schematics. It's game planning. It's preparation, all of which they do not know how to do at a high level. And they have not proven they even have a semblance of a clue. So there's your answer about where this team is going. There's your answer for what the future looks like. It's going to be a full-scale rebuild again. There's talent on this roster. It's not going to be a roster overhaul, but the management and upper management and coaching staff, that's where you're going to see most of the turnover this upcoming offseason and probably midseason as well.
You're going to see turnover all over the place with this New York Giants team, and I hope that we see more turnover than what we're accustomed to, because the last times they've cleaned house, they've kept a lot of important figures in that front office. They have kept them in place and refused to move on. And John Mara, you have to answer for your crimes against this fan base. But I think that's going to wrap this one up as we sit here quite depressed after the third straight loss for this New York Giants team. 3-0 preseason, 30 points in every preseason game, and then falling flat on your face and getting pancakes in the regular season. That is typical of the New York Giants. It's what we should have expected. We are suckers for getting our hopes up, and we'll be suckers when we get our hopes up again next August. But for now, it's going to be a long ride. Make sure that you guys do stay tuned here with Fireside Giants, though. We'll have plenty to discuss and plenty to react to throughout the week. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. And definitely comment your angry thoughts on the New York Giants' shitty performance down below in the comment section. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Giants, I guess.
Perfect.